I made a few films starting in 2012 with a movie called Blood for Irina, which was kind of my like no-budget expressionist ode to the moods and tones and textures of filmmakers like David Cronenberg, Lucio Fulci, specifically Jean Rollin and Jess Franco, and Werner Herzog. Guys like that. Movies that really hit me on a kind of intellectual and visceral level, where there was meaning on screen, but it wasn't always socio-political meaning. It was more cinema meaning. So I wanted to make a movie that had rich cinema meaning and emotion, and was specific to a kind of style I was trying to translate. And I've stuck with that style ever since, for better or for worse. Sometimes controversially, because some people are a little bit isolated by my kind of language or the way I do stuff, but because I write, direct, edit, and compose the music and design the entire soundscapes of my films, I literally do everything. I make them 100% mine. They're, for better or for worse. If you like them, then high five me. If you hate them, then punch me in the face. It's all me. I'll take it all. So I've made Blood for Irina, Queen of Blood, Female Werewolf, Blood Dynasty, which Blood for Irina, Queen of Blood, and Blood Dynasty are sort of a trilogy about this eternal vampiric force named Irina that keeps coming back in different incarnations. Female Werewolf, which I already said. Space Vampire, which is here at the fest. Amazing. And Necropolis Legion, which was my full moon movie. I published a magazine called Delirium Magazine with my friend and colleague Charles Band, and I was lucky enough to lock on to the Deadly 10 project, which was a slate of 10 movies that Full Moon announced, and do my kind of weirdo Lucio Fulci, Mario Bava-esque sister sort of sequel to the Empire Pictures movie Necropolis. Really has very little to do with that movie at all, but it was my way to kind of like dive in and get weird with it, and get Richard Band to do the score with me, which was amazing. So it is my kind of compromise movie where it's partially my dream state, surrealist, wandering woman movie, mixed with a traditional gonzo, goofy, full moon freak out. Well, my first experience with filmmaking as a kid, we used to rent a video camera on weekends, and I'd come up with all these movie ideas, and it was very expensive because it would cost like $50 for that weekend to rent a giant VHS thing. And we'd film in camera, we'd do the edits, rewinding. So we'd always lose parts of the scene as we rewound on the videotape. So that was really annoying, the color bars and all that shit. And scoring, we'd have to, because we only had a day to make it, no post. So scoring, I'd have like a tape deck in the background, plodding along in the background, playing music. Sometimes music I wrote, which was cool. I was very young on the guitar and like a little Casio or something. But the movies were really popular. We'd end up circulating them in our class in like grade 6. And people were like, whoa, this guy's making a movie, because no one else was. So it was really, really kind of fun. And then I got a PXL 2000, which I have here still somewhere. Fisher-Price camera that filmed on an audio cassette, a black and white image on an audio cassette. Quickly phased out, and now a collector's item. Guys like David Lynch and all kinds of experimental filmmakers use this thing. I used part of it for my Space Vampire movie, actually. I still use it. But I would make movies then on this camera and transfer them to VHS and actually edit them with like a little bit of post-production to them. Not much, but a little bit. So there was that. And then obviously all those roads led to film school. And when I went to film school, I would hit a wall because I couldn't afford to be there. I had no money. I barely got in the tuition, and I had no money to compete in the sense that it cost, like back in the early 90s, like $30 for a roll of 16 millimeter film, and then $30 to develop that roll. So it was like, welcome to the poorhouse, right? Anyways, I ended up spending what money I did have on beer. Long story short, left film school. Plus, I didn't like people telling me what to do. I went to art school, the Ontario College of Art, and then same thing. I had my ideas of what I wanted to say and do, and I couldn't stand like a lot of this theory and all this nonsense. I was just like in another zone. So I quit that, and I ended up starting a band, which was like a multimedia band where I could do live music and also incorporate my film and stuff into it and have live action performance. And that was, if not popular, then effective enough that I was playing steady around Toronto and outside the perimeter in Canada. And again, never let go of any of that stuff. And then one day I stumbled across RUE MORGUE Magazine And I kind of pitched myself to them, and very quickly I had a column in the magazine writing about the weird kind of down-market horror stuff I loved, still do. And, long story short, I ended up as the editor of Fangoria. It's a huge story, but we don't have no time for that. Years later, took over FANGORIA Magazine, which was insane, and then suddenly I'm doing that, and it granted me a little bit of more influence and power, if you will. And because of that, I was able to scrounge up some money to start making my movies. So the first feature film I made, I didn't do shorts. I skipped right from kid movies to features with distribution deals, was Blood for Irina, which played here at the South African Horrorfest. And I haven't stopped since. It's been since 2012. I think I've made like 7 movies now, 7 movies, and more to come. I have a bunch and a slate coming up soon that I'm going to be doing under the parameters of the pandemic, which to me aren't parameters at all. They're just challenges. And because my movies are controlled and low budget and are mine through and through, I can do it, So yeah, it's been quite a ride since 2012 making stuff. And again, it ain't gonna stop, I don't think, unless this stops, which hopefully won't be for some time. I think after making as many films as I have, I just know what I want, and nothing has changed much since I started. I don't like script. That's one thing. I feel when you have a script, you're shackled to it. Now, we had a script for Necropolis, Legion, but as I kept rewriting it, changing things, and I knew once we got on set with the actors and the locations, and that would change. It's not that I'm super collaborative. It's that I'm collaborative with someone's energy. So if the actor looks a certain way, or if the light's hitting them a certain way, I want the movie to be as organic as possible. And if a dialogue exchange isn't working, I'll throw it away. So that's why Blood for Irina ended up being kind of mute, is that I just liked the way it moved. And I actually shot some dialogue for that, and I felt it didn't really work. It was expository. It spelled out everything for the audience, and I didn't want to do that. I wanted to create mystery and ambiguity and a dreamlike feel. And I find that dialogue sometimes rips you out of that, unless it's very effectively used. So I take a script. What I do is I kind of write a chain of events. Sometimes there's dialogue, sometimes there's not. But mostly it's a series of scenes that are stitched together to create a mood or tell a story or flesh out a character or send a message or an idea across to the audience. And then I shoot it very judiciously. Like usually I'll do like a week shoot, 3-day shoot. I shot Blood Dynasty in 2 days. But methodically, mathematically plotted out as to what was being shot from the minute we woke up to the minute we went to sleep. And editing in my head constantly. And so these movies are really, really pre-planned out on a kind of instinctual level. So when I go to edit, because I edit them myself, I know exactly where I'm going to kind of plug things in. And then once you start draping the music and sound over it, then it starts creating a kind of like a glue or kind of a vapor over it or something, It's kind of like painting over it with the sound. And that turns it into something else. And then we start remixing the images a little bit in case the story starts to become something else in the edit. So the only thing I can say I've actually learned is to, effectively articulate what I want to articulate. And in the case of the movie that's here at the festival, one of them, which are kind of polar opposites, Space Vampire is the most esoteric thing I've ever done. It's almost 100% plot free. It's purely experimental, and it really is. It's a mixture of different mediums, but it's experimental in story too, because I'm trying to tell a kind of like, it's a mood piece. I'm trying to tell a story about this woman using the idea of vampirism, and it's going to be confounding to a lot of people who think that I'm making a movie like Life Force, which actually this is influenced by Life Force. If Life Force was like a kind of weird, kind of like gas station dream or something, So yeah, I've learned a lot of stuff about making the kinds of movies I want to make, and it's an ongoing process. The biggest mistake any filmmaker can make when they're independent, actually when they're anything, that any director or any producer can make, is having an idea that exceeds their ability to execute it properly. Have I done this before? I think I did it with Queen of Blood especially, because I really wanted to make this big, expansive kind of dream Western. And we shot for the first time with out-of-town talent, Ogre from Skinny Puppy, and we shot on multiple locations with multiple people, too many people. And it was too big. I couldn't deliver what I wanted to deliver. And so I had to really kind of crush it down as we went. But I think what a lot of filmmakers do is they go in there with huge ambition because they've seen all these, God help me if you've seen like Christopher Nolan movies or David Fincher movies and you think you're that and you have like $5. I mean, you're dead. It's over. You'll never, ever be able to deliver that kind of entertainment. Your movie will not play at the multiplex. No matter how good it looks, no matter how cool it is, it's going to go somewhere else. And this is your chance as an underground filmmaker, an independent filmmaker, to really kind of make something that's going to break the rules a little bit, not follow someone else's rules. So what I see with a lot of independent filmmakers that I think are unsuccessful is that they're trying too hard to be something that they can't be and not exploring what they are. And that goes for having actors that aren't good enough to articulate dialogue that's written, or actors that are good but dialogue that's bad, to having poorly lit scenes, to have bad soundtracks, so whatever they're trying to do that they can't fully flesh out, fully realize within the confines of their budget and the tools that they have at their hand. So I think the most important thing to do as a filmmaker is to really look at what you got, shave off the parts that you can't effectively illustrate, and really amplify the things that you have that are good. And then you'll create a much more effective, convincing work.